Chechnya, Georgia, Crimea, eastern part of Ukraine, and then all of Ukraine. These are all states whose independence has been compromised by the Kremlin's aggressive policy in recent years. Today, the whole of Russia is also affected by its aggressive policy. Wagner, Russia's paramilitary organization, has launched an internal rebellion. How did all this come about? Why haven't Russia's aggressive actions been stopped? What did the European Union and the United States of America do right or wrong in the ongoing invasion attempt inside Ukraine? To answer all these questions, we need to take a quick look at past events. In order to understand today's crisis, we need to understand the period after the collapse of the Soviet Union. With the end of the Cold War, American hegemony in the world had won a decisive victory and consolidated its power. But what about what was left of the Soviet Union? It is safe to say that the biggest mistake made by the West was to underestimate Russia's expansionist policy. Only 3 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Chechnya was invaded by Russia. From then on, Russia clearly signaled that it would work to regain its former borders and prestige. In 1994, it created a pro-Russian government in Chechnya, ensuring the continuation of Moscow's influence in the region. Then, in 2008, Moscow targeted Georgia. Putin, Russia's ambitious leader, wanted to continue his expansionist activities unbeaten in order for his country to reach its former borders. Russia then targeted the Crimean Peninsula, but the situation there was a clearly violation of rights. Having agreed that the Crimean Peninsula would remain part of Ukraine, Russia unilaterally shared this agreement with its invasion in 2014. Crimea and Ukraine in particular have a very serious strategic importance for Russia. This region is at the intersection of three civilizations: Europe, the Ottoman Empire, and the Kingdom of Moscow. All three structures have tried to increase their dominance in the region over the years. Russia, which had fought with the Ottoman Empire for the Crimean Peninsula at the end of the 18th century, lost its influence here after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Having lost a very important strategic position in the Black Sea, Russia regained power in the region by unjustly annexing Crimea in 2014. In fact, since then, Russia has clearly demonstrated that its expansion strategy has no stopping point. But Western states were not willing to consider this situation as a problem. Seeing the invasion of Georgia as a temporary situation, Europe remained silent in the face of the invasion of Crimea and contented itself with watching Russia's escalatory actions. It is important to recall the events that preceded the outbreak of World War II. Just before 1939, Nazi Germany had invaded Czechoslovakia and Austria in full view of Europe. The European states, on the other hand, almost allowed it, considering this invasion attempt as the last aggressive activity of Nazi Germany. Afterwards, as we all already know, World War II and the process of rebuilding Europe from the ground up. Today, a similar policy is being implemented against Russia. But to say that history is repeating itself is not a reasonable assessment. After the occupation of Crimea, Moscow's target was a new state, Ukraine. Moscow, which first launched separatist activities in eastern Ukraine and increased Russian influence in the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. And of course, Russia was not satisfied with this. On February 24, 2022, the occupation of the whole of Ukraine officially began. Since World War II, the Schengen area of Europe has witnessed a war of this magnitude for the first time. From the very beginning, Putin did not see Ukraine as an independent state. In 2008, during the NATO summit, Putin and United States President George Bush spoke in a speech that is one of the clearest indicators of this. You don't understand. Ukraine is not even a state. These words belong to the Russian leader. Putin thinks that the citizens of Ukraine and Russia are the same. Clearly, Russia thinks that Ukraine is not an independent state and therefore should not take any step, especially in the field of foreign policy, without the knowledge of the Kremlin. It is in this context that the invasion attempt should be evaluated. We can safely say that Russia's aggressive behavior has been ignored by European countries. As it is known, Ukraine's inclusion into the European Union has been on the agenda recently. But when we go back a little bit, it can be easily seen that Europe's thinking was exactly the opposite. In 2004, when Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary joined the Union, Ukraine became the border between Russia and the European Union. When that time Ukraine's accession was on the agenda, the European Union stated that it was not possible for this to happen in 20 or 25 years. Also, moreover, this process was similar to the process of Ukraine's accession to the NATO. In other words, while Russia's aggressive policy continued to increase, Europe could only watch these actions. Today, it is a very serious war that has been going on for 1.5 years. In this section, it is worth mentioning the latest developments. The Wagner group launched a coup attempt in Moscow. This group is basically a paramilitary organization that was established with Russia and grew up with state support. In other words, Putin often used Wagner troops in his cross-border operations. The founder of the group is Yevgeny Prigozhin. Prigozhin, who once served as the Russian leader's cook, is now leading a rebel movement against Russia in Moscow. This group, which has a very bad reputation, appears as an organization with extreme views. As you can see, the events with Russia at the center are extremely complex and complicated. I tried my best to explain this subject in detail and without boring you. I hope you liked it. I will continue to be in front of you with such videos within the channel. See you soon.